back to another episode by the Happy Woodworker. This is part 2 of a 3-part series on reshaping a set of wood turning tools. I started yesterday with my parting tool, and in this video we're going to pick that back up and we're going to talk about the bevel edge on a skew chisel. Both of these tools that I'm demonstrating in these parts are from a Harbor Freight set, and we're going to pick back up where we left off yesterday, and we're going to adjust the bevel cut on the skew chisel. I'm going to finish this series up with part 3, which will be honing and making sure that I have a nice sharp edge on those, and I'm going to do a demonstration on how I do those since I don't use diamond stones. So look for that. Part 3 will be coming shortly after part 2. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy. Good morning, YouTube. Welcome to another video by the Happy Woodworker. I'm literally in the middle of a couple different videos, and yesterday I finished doing a basic turning lesson, and I was starting to do my next series, which is going to be cutting some chess pieces. And I got mad at my parting tool because I didn't like the cut on it, and I started a video on reshaping and cutting a parting tool. And so I didn't quite finish that video, but I got to thinking in the process. When you go out and you're looking at videos online on how to grind, cut, or reshape your parting tools, particularly on sharpening, a skew chisel pops up a lot. And you see people talk about the cut and the grind that you're going to have on these, whether you're going to come, this one for example has an angle down. You see people talk about how some of them like to have a 90 degree at the top and then they like to curve. You see all different types of cuts, but very rarely does anybody talk about the angle here. If we zoom in a little bit here, this is a Harbor Freight set, and I did a review on these, and I've also explained to everybody in that video, when you go out and buy a new set of chisels or turning tools, it doesn't matter what brand you buy, you're going to have to sharpen them. You're going to have to put the cut on them that you want to have. So, but nobody talks about what kind of angle you have cut back on your tool. And if I take my little handy dandy measuring tool here and I come across, if we look at this, and I don't have it ground perfectly even when I reground and cut it, you end up with something that looks like an equilateral triangle. The general rule of thumb on these is that you want your cut from point to heel to be the same thickness as your blade, or you want to be 1.5 times the thickness of your blade. So I've taken my handy dandy measuring tool here and I've set it to 1.5 times my blade because I want to go with something narrower, and that's what my video is going to be on today. I'm going to regrind this and reshape it so that instead of having something that looks like an equilateral triangle, let me see if I can get the camera to focus real good on this for you. If you see, it's basically, I've got 3 sides that are all the same size, an equilateral triangle. I want something that's going to be more like an isometric triangle. I think that's the proper term, right? Isometric. So I'm going to bring my heel back, and I've set my measuring tool here to go 1.5 times the distance or thickness of my bar. So that's what this video is going to be on today. If we look here, these are just about from factory exactly 1 times the thickness of the bar. They're the same thickness. So I want to take this back to about there. So we're not taking off a whole lot today, but we are going to take some off. So I'm going to take my Sharpie out. And it's been kind of difficult for me to figure out how to show this on camera. So I was going to find the point with my tool against here, and then I was going to decide how far back do I need to come in order to get that where I want it. So just slightly over that edge. I'm going to blacken that edge out. For the record, when I'm done, what I'm shooting for is 11/30 seconds. I want the length from the cutting edge to the heel to be 11/30 seconds. That's what the distance measured at 1.5 times the thickness. I highly doubt you'll be able to see that either. I love this little thing, by the way. I use it for everything. I doubt you'll be able to see the measurements, but it's set to 11/30 seconds. That's what I'm shooting for by the time I'm done. So there we go. That ought to put me in the neighborhood of 11/30 seconds. That's how much I'm going to extend my bevel. Sharpie is a wonderful thing for this. So the next thing I've done is I have looked at my grinder, and I have set my little tool rest here at an angle that I think is going to hit the heel, because what I want to do is just hit the backside at this heel. I want to change the angle, not so much the cutting edge yet. So here we go. That's going to be first thing. I'm going to do this free-handed. I do not have a jig for this. So I'm going to find the flat on my table, and this is going to be kind of difficult to do. I don't have a long table here. This grinder came with a pretty small one. It's still just stock, what it came with pretty much. This is a rough grinding wheel right here. I've got one that's a little more fine on the other side. So we'll use this one to do the shaping. I'll do some final shaping on this one, and we will see what happens. So here we go. We're going to turn the grinder on. I'm going to try and keep this line straight across to my wheel. Perpendicular, I believe, would be the proper term. Alright, here we go. I'm going to line that up for what I think is, and just barely touch. And I'm going to come across and let's see where we're hitting. We are hitting where I want to be, or close to it. So I'm going to advance into that cut a little bit more. Bet you never thought you'd have to do metal working when you went out and bought a lathe, right? Let's see where we're at. That's still pretty good. I may have to adjust the angle some more, but we're going to cut some more into that. And I'm watching to make sure I've got sparks all the way across the wheel. That way I get an even grind. I don't know if the camera's picking that up or not, but you'll see I've got a straight line right across where I'm grinding. That shiny part's what I just ground. Nicely done so far. I've still got a nice even grind across that. The biggest trick to this is to take your time. You cannot be in a hurry. And so a good portion of what you're going to see me here do is just advance up to the wheel and then continue to go back and forth until I have a nice even cut across the length of the blade. That's the majority of what you're going to spend your time doing here. I happen to like the angle of the skew on this direct from the factory. I was very happy with the skew angle. I just want to change the cutting angle. Almost there. And I'm actually going to dip that in some water right now. You should always keep a little capful or a cup of water. Keep the steel cool. We don't want to change the temperament of the steel, particularly if you've got a good set. In this case, this is a little Harbor Freight set. It's a cheap set, but I still, the temperament seems to be about right, and I don't want to change the temperament on the steel. And we're getting there. I might be slightly off, but we're getting there. And again, I'm not up to my cutting edge yet. We're going to do this grind until I can just see a touch of my Sharpie mark on there, and I just want to kiss that cutting edge. That's it. That's all I want to do, is just kiss the cutting edge. I don't want to grind that down and burr it all that much. Again, it looks like I'm doing a lot to this, but I'm just barely contacting this here. I might be taking off thousands and thousands of an inch at a time. I'm not doing much. Okay, I am starting to see some sparks on my cutting edge. This is not the most perfect cut in the world that I've ever done, but I'm actually kind of happy with it. It's a nice grind. I've got a slight off angle here in the concave. I don't care about the concave angle. What you care about is your cutting edge and the bevel back for the most part. Having a narrower, again, I don't know if you'll be able to see, the old side on this side is up here. My new one on this side is down here. So now we're going to do this to the other side. And I think I did probably take off a little more than I wanted to, but I'm still quite happy with it. Let's cool my steel. And then maybe I'll do a quick segment on how I hone these. Because I don't do this the way the typical woodworker does. This is tool work on a budget. Okay, I'm going to find my right angle here. Make sure I'm coming right across. Feels like it's about there. I want 90 degrees between this cut and my wheel. 90 degrees for this particular skew angle. As you're coming across this blade, you're going to be tending to look at the top. Remember that it's down here that you're cutting. So you want to make sure that your cutting wheel is going all the way across this bottom line, not the top line. Well, you want to do both. But it's the bottom that I'm changing right now. It's the heel. Again, I don't know if I can get the camera to pick it up, but my grind's actually going across pretty well at this point. See the nice shiny? That's what I'm looking for. Just back and forth until you get it to do what you want. I'm going to cool this again. It's getting a little warm. It takes practice at this. If you've never done something like this before, I'd actually recommend you find just an old regular chisel, something you don't care about destroying, and just practice grinding on it. And so here I'm just finishing off the cut on the second side. So join me for part 3, and that's going to be honing and sharpening this to a razor sharp edge. Thank you for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed.